I had a question. Sorry to hear about Sam, of course. I was hoping you could sort of fill us in on maybe the guys battling to pick up those minutes. Who has to step up now with him and his versatility out?
Well, let's begin with Sam. He was our most experienced front court player, our leading rebounder from last season. He was practicing extremely well, and we're going to dramatically miss his defense, his rebounding, his experience, and just his overall demeanor on the court. He was someone that did a lot of different things for us. Prior to his injury, it was really a battle between Sam, Anthony Walker, Matt Cross, and Deng Gak for the starting power forward position. And Sam, with his experience, was in front. But I'm pleased with the way Anthony was practicing, the way Matt has practiced, and what he brings to the table. And it's very nice having Deng Gak back, because Deng can play both the 4 and the 5.
We'll go now to David Fronis from the Sun Sentinel. David?
Hey, Coach, I was wondering, out of the backcourt, a loaded backcourt that you have, who kind of took the biggest leap this offseason? Is it a Wong? Is it just who made the greatest strides this offseason?
Well, I'm very pleased with all of them. Let's begin with Chris Likes. He's playing the best basketball in practice. Now, will it convert to games? I sure hope so. I really hope so, because he's had a great summer and fall, and that was after knee surgery. So he came back very, very strong. He rehabbed the knee, got himself in great shape. He's playing very, very well. Isaiah Wong last year weighed about 162 pounds. He now weighs 182. He is considerably bigger and stronger. Our strength coach, Phil Bear, has done a great job with his body. And he's practicing very well. He's played both the 1 and 2, and he's playing both positions, I think, with a great deal of confidence. And he's shooting the 3 with a lot of confidence, and I would say significantly improved from last year in that category. Harlan Beverly is again, much improved, especially at the defensive end of the floor. Really been impressed with his progress defensively. Cam McGusty, one day in practice, I said to him, hey, that's the most athletic I've seen you since you arrived. And he said it's the first year where his back wasn't bothering him. So he's made a lot of progress as well. All 4 of those guys are in great shape. And then you add our freshman, Earl Timberlake, to that group. And I think we've got a very, very solid 5-man rotation for the 1, 2, and 3 spot.
We'll go now to Michelle Kaufman from the Miami Herald. Michelle.
Hi, Jim. Nice to see you again.
Hi, Michelle.
Can you talk about Nassir Brooks? We spoke to him earlier. He seems like a really interesting guy, a real vocal leader. He calls himself a glue guy. He felt that the one thing that was missing from your team last year was someone to chain everybody together. Can you talk about what he brings and what can the fans expect to see from him and how he's helped your team?
Well, your description of Nassir initially, a very interesting guy, is very accurate. And he's very vocal. And I think that's going to really help us defensively. I was really counting on he and Sam, because Sam's a good defender. And I think Nassir is going to be a very good defender and rebounder for us. I think he'll block some shots. Because he's so big and strong, I think he'll be a factor at both ends of the court. As far as being a glue guy, I always think of that as you know, if you're a vocal leader, if you're talking all the time on the defense, that's very, very helpful. So hopefully he will be able to fill that role.
Up next, we have Wyatt Copeland from the Miami Herald, or excuse me, the Miami Hurricane. Wyatt.
Hey, Coach. Hope you've been well despite the pandemic. How competitive do you think this program will be in the ACC this season, given the added talent and depth, and hopefully they can stay healthy too?
Well, before, when I was speaking to anyone from the media, I would say as long as we stay healthy, we should be in much better shape than we have been the last 2 seasons. But it is a big blow to us to lose Sam. I will say that, because he's our leading returning rebounder. He's our best front court defender. He's a 5th-year senior. So we're going to miss his leadership. And it's going to require at least one of our younger guys or inexperienced guys. So we have three major candidates: a freshman in Matt Cross, a sophomore who played very little in Anthony Walker, who played very little as a freshman, or Dan Gack, who's played very little because of injury throughout his career. One of those 3 or all of those 3 are going to have to step up to fill the role that Sam would have played. So, as I said, that's a big blow to us, but the guys are making progress. I'm pretty happy with the way the freshmen have improved, because it's not the offensive end. I think they're both. I think all 3, Anthony Walker, Matt Cross, and Earl Timberlake, are going to be able to help us immediately at the offensive end. It's who's going to bring it defensively, because we've been perhaps the worst defensive team in the ACC the past 2 seasons. And some of it has to do with our lack of depth. Some of it just has to do with not quite as big and talented as we've been in my previous 7 seasons.
We'll go now to Steve Wine from the Associated Press. Steve.
Hi, Jim. So how optimistic are you that the defense will be appreciably better?
I like your hat, Steve.
Thank you.
Read it. I would have said 3 days ago it's going to be appreciably better when you've got a starting 4-man who's in his 5th year and your best returning defender, and you have Nassir Brooks, the defensive player of the year in the American Conference, at your 4-5 position. And then you got a guy like Rodney Miller, who's now in his 5th year, rotating in at those spots. But losing Sam creates a whole different set of circumstances. You know, who starts in that position, and whoever starts, as we go from a guy who was a 3-year starter to a guy who's never started. That's not the same. And it impacts you more defensively than offensively. So we'll actually have to look at the possibility of playing small ball and going, because our guards are our most talented offensive players. We may need to play someone like an Earl Timberlake and go small.
And on a different subject, what is the most difficult challenge from your perspective in navigating the pandemic?
I'm very, very proud of our guys for the way they've handled it so far, but we've almost been in our own bubble. Now, our practice facility has been limited to our players, our coaches, and a couple of managers, and that's it. And they've all been tested. At one time, it was once a week. Now it's twice a week. So as long as we're smart about who we interact with when we're not at practice, I think we can stay safe. But when you're dealing with teenagers, young adults who already have been basically quarantined since last March, you got guys maybe with COVID fatigue. And will they, go out and interact with people? I've lost a friend to COVID. I've lost a former player to COVID, and I have a relative with COVID. It's a very dangerous virus. Our players have been very, very smart in dealing with it so far, but you can't let up your guard, especially with there being more and more cases diagnosed each day. And instead of this going away, it's getting worse. And we want to keep ourselves safe so we can really have a basketball season. But as you see around the country, it's great that our football team has not missed a game, but there have been other teams in the ACC who've had to postpone games or cancel games. So we need to be very, very diligent and be on our toes throughout this entire school year.
We'll go now to Cal Friedman from UMTV. Cal.
Coach, I wanted to ask about Earl Timberlake. He's ranked as the 5th best recruit in program history. Do you plan on easing him into the rotation when the season starts, or do you expect big things from him from game one?
Well, easing him into the rotation is really not on my mind right now. Earl has practiced very hard and very well. He's a tremendous competitor. He brings an entirely different set of athletic skills and basketball skills. He's more physically ready than most freshmen. He's more like a Bruce Brown in a sense that he's 6'5", he's strong, he's athletic, he can handle. He's not, very much like Bruce, he's not your classic three-point shooter. He can make threes like Bruce did, but he's more of a tough, hard-nosed guy going to the basket. Whether Earl starts or comes in off the bench, he's going to be a major contributor from day one.
We'll go now to Chris Stock from InsideTheU. Chris.
Talking about with Earl, you mentioned maybe a possibility that you could use him at the 4. What kind of skill set or what kind of team do you expect that, or what do you think that will look like, or have you been able to get him in there just for looks? And then also the overall athleticism of your team, speaking with Earl and Harlan, talk about Walker and Gak, just and Nassir, just the overall athleticism of your team, your thoughts on that.
Well, let's talk specifically about Earl. One of the things he brings to the table, even though he's only about 6'5", is he's been rebounding the ball very well at both ends. And losing our best rebounder in Sam Wardenberg, all of a sudden the coaching staff is very, very focused on who do we play, who can play that position and get us, give us the best chance of defending and rebounding at that position. Is it someone like Dengak, who's 6'11"? Is it someone like Anthony Walker, who's 6'8", but very athletic? Is it Matt Cross at 6'7"? Or is it Earl, who, even though he's only 6'5", we keep stats in practice, and he's one of our leading rebounders in practice. And he's also someone defensively that would allow us to switch 1 through 4. And that's something we're working on right now. And we're hoping that would improve our defense versus ball screens. If we do not have to overhelp with ball screens, if the only guy that is not switching is the 5-man, we feel like we might be able to defend the ball screens better. And Earl is working on that. Freshmen always have a lot to learn defensively. So it's not like he has that experience. He'll be working on that throughout this month and throughout November and December. The other guys, they could elevate their chances of getting more and more playing time if they improve their defense and rebounding.
Last question for Coach L comes from John Akers from Basketball Times. John.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? You got a lot of seniors, a lot of fifth-year guys. The NCAA is giving out extra years to players. Is it realistic to think you might get some of these guys back, or is that not realistic at at the level you're at?
I believe at this time it's just a little too early to know. I've already had that conversation with the seniors. Every one of them, I'm guessing, but I would anticipate every one of them will be able to play professionally at some level after college, whether it's in the NBA, the G League, Europe, or like a Sam Wardenberg going back to his home country of New Zealand. So each of them will have a decision to make, but it's way too early to discuss it seriously. The next time I really address this will probably be after the season is over, when they can reflect on what kind of senior year they had, how many guys really are seriously thinking about coming back, and what kind of team we could have for next year.